Aloha, everyone. My name is Rob Hack. I'm a volunteer board member of the Hawaii Pacific Export Council, colloquially called HPEC. And we are a nonprofit based in Honolulu that is charged with helping Hawaii companies export their products to foreign countries. And just to be clear on the definition of an export, it is from the United States to another country. That does not include shipments from one island in Hawaii to another. It does not include shipments to the mainland nor to Guam, but it would certainly include shipments to Japan, Korea, Germany, Canada, Mexico, and the like. I have up here our website at hawaiiexportsupport.com. I enjoin you to look at that. And also we have an archive of videos on our YouTube channel. You can just go to YouTube and search for HPEC or Hawaii Pacific Export Council, and you'll see approaching 100 videos now that we've done over the years on various topics from this event today, like exporting to the Philippines, which I'm proud to say this is the first time we've done an exporting to the Philippines event, and I'm very excited about it. But we've done in the past exporting to Japan, Korea, Canada, Taiwan, Vietnam, etc. And then we have specific business topics such as export finance, logistics, and what have you. So we're very honored and thankful to be able to put on these events. And we particularly are thankful to DBET and SBA, the Small Business Administration in Washington, D.C., because they are the sponsors of the STEP grant, or State Trade Expansion Program grants. And Hawaii has been fortunate to get this grant every year for the past several years, and that's managed by DBET. And the person at DBET who manages that STEP grant, or called HiSTEP locally, is Jamie Lum, and she's here to speak for a few minutes about the HiSTEP program. Jamie, please welcome, and I will put up the website for your program.
Thank you, Rob. Can I go ahead and share my?
Yeah, I'll let to the audience at invest.hawaii.gov, and there's an exporting tab here. Click on that and you'll find all the information.
Thank you.
Can see it clearly?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rob, and mahalo to all of our speakers joining us today, especially those that are from the U.S. Commercial Service in Manila. Welcome. As Rob said, this is the first time that we have had an exporting to the Philippines session, so we are quite excited about that. But I just want to spend just a few minutes to talk about our Hawaii State Trade Expansion Program, or HiSTEP, as Rob mentioned. Okay, there we go. So Rob already mentioned that this program is funded primarily through the SBA, through a grant that we receive annually. And we wouldn't be able to carry out this program really without the many partners that we work with, including the Hawaii Pacific Export Council, as well as those other organizations that you see on the screen there. With our SBDC and our Women's Center, which is the Mink Center, as well as our Foreign Trade Zone, Innovate Hawaii, Department of Agriculture, many partners that we work with here locally. And you know, we've put together a comprehensive export development program to help our Hawaii companies export their Hawaii-made goods and services worldwide. And we've developed a program by designing 3 integrated components, and I'll go into those a little bit further. Um, but let me just say that what we are looking to do, the program is open to any company that is interested in exporting. So whether you're a new to export company, or you are a company that has been exporting but looking to expand in some way, you are eligible for the program. We're looking to try to increase the dollar amount of Hawaii goods and services being exported. We're looking to increase the overall number of Hawaii companies that are exporting. And we're also looking to penetrate more of the globe with Hawaii goods and services. So those are what we're aiming for as far as what we look at as the success of the program. To be eligible for this program, you need to meet the SBA size standards and be a small business. You need to be in business for at least a year, and you need to also have a product or a service that is at least 51% US made. So while that is the SBA standard, we do try to support and work with companies that meet that definition of 51% for Hawaii-made goods and services. So we do give priority to those companies that meet that. We also want to make sure that companies, of course, are registered to do business in the state of Hawaii, both with our Commerce and Consumer Affairs as well as our Department of Taxation. So those are just the basic eligibility requirements. So the 3 components that are part of this program are our export readiness program, of which this session is one of them. Export readiness consists of monthly training sessions, and we work with HPEC, with Rob specifically, to help us to put these sessions together. Some of them are export topics, such as financing or legal issues and doing business internationally. We did one, I think the last one we did was on e-commerce and social media. And then we have some that are market specific, like this one today, exporting to the Philippines. So what we're trying to do is to give information to companies to try to build their capacity and just build their knowledge of what it takes for exporting or what's available to them out there. And then the other part of export readiness is we have one-on-one business advising. So those partners that I mentioned at the opening of my presentation, we do when a company registers for HiSTEP, then we will put you in touch with one of the partner organizations for at least one session where they can help to sort of delve into your company a little bit more, what your export expectations and goals are, and then they can help to advise you on either activities that are available through HiSTEP, or maybe other types of activities that may be suitable for your company. The second component is our market entry and expansion activities. These are various types of events, such as trade shows, consumer shows, and then we've also started to look into making various e-commerce platforms available to our companies. So what we do is we subsidize the majority of the cost in terms of for these trade and consumer shows, and then we will go out and recruit companies to participate in the Hawaii Pavilion. We do have, for instance, we have coming up next month the Hankyu Hawaii Fair in Osaka, Japan, which is a consumer show. And we have, I believe, over 40 companies that are participating in that. And then in September, we have probably the largest show that we do, which is the Tokyo International Gift Show. And I believe that we have about 40 companies already signed up for that as well. So again, these are ways, these are activities that you can participate in to look for potential distributors, partners, buyers, etc. And um, those would be open to companies that register for HiSTEP. And then lastly, we have our company assistance, and that's where companies can apply directly for financial assistance. It is a competitive process. We put applications out once a year, normally in November, and then they're due in January. There's an evaluation committee, and basically 50% of the evaluation is based on an export plan. So if a company can put together their export plan and explain, what market they're looking at going into, what kind of activities they're looking at participating in to reach that market, maybe some market research that they may have done on why their product or service is suitable for that particular market. Those types of things we would expect to see in an export plan. And so that companies can apply for, if you're new to export, you can apply for up to $5,000. If you are a market expansion company or a little bit more experienced exporter, you can apply for up to $15,000. So I know I'm getting really broad strokes. I will send Rob a copy of my more detailed slides of the HiSTEP program, so it'll delve into each of these components a little bit more, so that you can get more information to see a little bit more about what the program is about. But as Rob said, our website is invest.hawaii.gov, and if you go to the exporting tab underneath that, you'll get to our HiSTEP site. And then if you are interested, you can complete the registration form, and there's no cost to register. It doesn't obligate you to participate in any of the activities. It simply is a way for us to get some information about your organization, your company, and then we can put you in touch with one of our partner organizations. This is just sort of a picture of the process when you register, and then we will assign you to one of the partners, and then you can have your one-on-one business advising, and then you can move on from there if there are appropriate activities that you under HiSTEP want to participate in, our market entry and expansion, or if you are interested in applying for company assistance, you would go from there. So again, that's just a broad overview of HiSTEP. Here's my contact information, and again, I will send a more detailed PowerPoint to Rob so that he can send that out to those of you that have registered for this session. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. And again, mahalo to our speakers, mahalo Rob, and enjoy the rest of the session.
Thank you, Jamie. Excellent overview of the HiSTEP program. Now, with that, I'd like to jump in and introduce our primary speakers who are in Manila. We have Paul Taylor. He's a senior commercial service officer of the U.S. Commercial Service at the Embassy in Manila. We have Tess Sula. She's a commercial specialist. I'd also like to thank Baby Montesinos, who is not able to join us today, but I met her in Manila a couple years ago at the embassy, and she's been nothing but extremely helpful for me, and she helped me get this program off the ground today. And then at the end of the presentation by Paul and Tess, we'll ask Bernice to say a few words about her company and exporting of services from Hawaii to the Philippines. And if you have questions, you can type them into the Q&A area, and we'll answer those at the end. You can also text or email me, as I know many of you like to do. All right, with that, let's turn it over to Paul and Tess, please. And thank you again. I really appreciate your time. I know it's a busy Friday morning for you in Manila, but we greatly appreciate hearing your expertise. Thank you. I think you're muted, Paul.
There we go. Okay, sorry about that. I'm not used to Zoom. We don't use Zoom so often. Apologies for that. I believe that, Tess, are you going to be able to pull up the slides? We do have a very short PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, wait
So
a
as
second.
as we're doing that, let me introduce myself, and I'll introduce Tess kind of on behalf of her. She's working on the PowerPoint there for, and then I'd like to turn it over to Tess towards the end of this presentation. She'll have a lot more insights, a lot more clear insights than I certainly have. So my name is Paul Taylor. I'm the Senior Commercial Officer at the U.S. Embassy in Manila, Philippines. I'm a diplomat, a part of the U.S. Foreign Service, but specifically focused on commercial diplomacy, helping the U.S. private sector find opportunities in markets around the world and take advantage of those opportunities. I have colleagues around the world in about 70 markets, the key markets for the United States. Some of our presences are small, a single officer in many cases, in other cases, India, China, Canada, even. We have a strong core of very skilled diplomats working for our clients, the U.S. private sector. And we also, very importantly, we have local colleagues like Tess Sula, who's joining us today, that have deep insights into the market in their specific country and have the connections that can help American companies advance in the market. So I'll provide just a real quick overview of what the U.S. Commercial Service does. We have a set of services that we're able to provide to U.S. companies. The services are primarily focused on the export of goods and services from the U.S. We have a particular affinity for small and medium-sized companies, but we work for clients of all sizes. We know that many small, medium-sized companies may not have the resources that large companies have. They may not have a presence in a particular market, and the partnerships that we can help them develop are a key, or a really strong part of their success. So we love working with companies all across the United States that are small, on the smaller size, but have great opportunities in international markets. Our services range from simple partner introduction, B2B introductions to help your companies find the right partners, to engaging with the host government when a company is facing intractable difficulties in overcoming a market access barrier, for instance, or in some cases it may be protecting their intellectual property. We can step in and advocate on behalf of your company. Importantly, we also advocate when a company is pursuing a project in a market, and particularly we focus on government procurement projects, tenders, infrastructure projects, projects of all sorts where the host government will be involved and be the key decision maker. We can weigh in quite effectively on behalf of our clients and have those government to government conversations that really help to advance the opportunity for U.S. companies. The slide that you'll see, I hope you can see it on our on the screen at the moment. It also indicates, you'll notice that we have a presence in over 100 U.S. cities. So we do have an office in Honolulu. We have offices in more than 100 U.S. cities. These are sort of storefront, or they're a presence nearby, staffed by our colleagues that are trade specialists and have a deep understanding of how to utilize U.S. government resources to advance opportunities for U.S. companies. So those are an important resource that you should be aware of and should be looking to tap into. Oftentimes, our domestic presence in the United States is paired with Small Business Administration. In some cases, we also are co-located with US Exim Bank or other U.S. government resources that U.S. companies can utilize to expand their presence around the world. You'll see on the right side just a snapshot of who we are. Myself, two additional officers here at Post, and we have a very skilled group of local colleagues, Philippine colleagues. Bebe was mentioned. Tess is on the call with us, and we have several others. Can you move on? There we go. So let me give you a real quick overview of the Philippines if you're not already intimately familiar with the market. The Philippines is some population of about 120 million. So it's not the largest market in Southeast Asia by far, but importantly, for your knowledge, it's the most American of markets in Southeast Asia. It's the most American market in Asia by a long shot. This will be very familiar territory, particularly for somebody coming from Hawaii. It'll feel like home to a great extent, and because of that, the United States has an advantage over our global competitors, other companies in the region, and our European competitors. The United States has a leg up on those, and that's primarily because of our long history, our deep intertwining with the Philippines, and shared culture and interests and values. The United States and the Philippines are truly friends, partners, and allies in many ways. The U.S. Has a particularly important relationship with the Philippines, and we may go into a little bit more detail in this. Our relationship with the Philippines goes back to when the Philippines was a colony, of course, in the early part of the 1900s. But importantly, also at the conclusion of World War II, the United States and the Philippines, as the Philippines gained its independence shortly after World War II, the United States and the Philippines signed a mutual defense treaty. It's the oldest mutual defense treaty in Asia that the United States has, and it holds us to coming to the Philippines' aid in the case where they may be the victim of an aggressor, and that it drives much of the work that the embassy does, and it certainly is a very important component of our overall relationship. But the embassy, and starting from our ambassador on down, we stress the importance of the fact that our relationship, the U.S.-Philippines relationship, is not entirely military focused. In fact, that's probably a relatively small part of our overall relationship. The most important relationship between the Philippines is driven by our trade and investment and the people-to-people exchanges that take place, the shared cultural heritage, the incredible family ties between the United States and the Philippines, and particularly Hawaii. That drives our relationship more than anything. Could you move on to the next slide, Tess? So real quickly, some of the opportunities that we see here in the Philippines. The Philippines is one of the fastest growing markets, not only in Southeast Asia. It is the fastest growing market in Southeast Asia. It's one of the fastest growing in the entire Asia. It has been growing close to 6% year on year, strong recovery from COVID. A diversification of the economy to create more sustainable growth going forward. So the outlook for the Philippines is very rosy at the moment. It's looking extremely positive. President Marcos, the son of the previous President Marcos, took office in 2022, and he is made some really strong, sound decisions on economic policy in particular, and looking to strengthen areas where the Philippines has historically been somewhat weak. We'll go into a little bit more details, but some of those are around infrastructure, which the Philippines certainly has lagged on, and also diversifying its economy and creating more opportunities in the manufacturing sector, creating more opportunities around digital infrastructure and digital technology, and creating an energy grid and an energy infrastructure that's going to be built around clean and renewable energy. So great signs that the Philippines is kind of turned a corner and is really looking to continue growing at that 5 to 6% going forward for the next 5 to 10 years. There are, without doubt, many challenges that U.S. companies face here in the Philippines. Corruption remains quite high. Organizations like Transparency International and the World Bank try to put a metric on the levels of corruption in markets around the world, and the Philippines ranks relatively high. It's not the highest in Southeast Asia, but it is a problem that holds back the economy. You would like to think that President Marcos is making inroads and has a plan to address that, and you could argue that he does, but it's going to be a long process. It's going to take many years to reduce the levels of corruption that are holding economic growth back. One of the biggest problems, though, that the Philippines has, and it goes hand in hand with corruption in many cases, horrible bureaucracy, endemic bureaucracy, as we indicate on the slide. The processes that companies have to go through to register their companies, to purchase land or lease property, labor policies are highly bureaucratic, and it not only holds up economic growth, but it also discourages foreign investors from making progress in the market. So in many cases, because of those two challenges, the Philippines is losing opportunities to some of its regional neighbors, to Thailand, to Vietnam in particular, of course, Malaysia, Indonesia. Some of these challenges aren't quite as severe in those markets, and it is driving investment away from the Philippines in some cases. There's progress, but we've got a ways to go. And lastly, the Philippines is a very unusual market. The private sector is dominated by a relatively small number of family-owned conglomerates. They own a very significant part of the sort of sophisticated economic activity. Much of the infrastructure is owned or controlled by many of these conglomerates. There's an additional sort of dynasty that is focused around politics, including President Marcos's own family. These two sort of dynasties, one political, one commercial, economic, have held up progress to some extent. In some ways, the economy of the Philippines benefits from that structure. In other ways, they are less competitive than they might be otherwise. The way the economy is structured, it discourages sort of innovation in some cases. So the startup, just as an example, the startup economy in the Philippines is smaller than it might be if the economy was more sort of level without these large dynasties owning much of the economy. But there's, again, progress being made, and the Philippines is certainly headed in the right direction. Next slide. So more specifically, these are the key sectors that we have identified as the most promising for U.S. companies. Agriculture, this country has phenomenal potential for agricultural output that is very clearly untapped. The Philippines is heavily dependent on imported agricultural products, commodities. In fact, the Philippines is one of the U.S.'s largest markets for agriculture exports. Soybeans, corn, pork, meat, you name it. This is a large market for U.S. ag exports. The aviation sector, the Philippines is made up of 7,000 islands, and much of the transportation needs to be by air. The aviation sector, like many of the other sectors here, is somewhat undeveloped. There's a lot of airport infrastructure that is needed that is still very much a work in progress, and that will create opportunities for the U.S. I mentioned some of these others. ICT, the digital backbone of the Philippines is strong, but there are enormous opportunities for U.S. companies looking at digital economy opportunities here. I did mention defense and security. Probably don't need to go into great detail, but we have a very robust national security partnership with the Philippines, and that does involve equipment and services acquisitions by the armed forces of the Philippines. We don't want to ignore many of the other opportunities. Tourism, outbound tourism from the Philippines to the United States is growing and very strong. Education, the the U.S. is the favored destination for outbound students coming from the Philippines. So great opportunities for Hawaii to attract additional students, international students coming out of the Philippines. Franchising is a unique opportunity here in the Philippines. This market is dominated by American brands. So if there are Hawaiian brands that are looking at expanding internationally and looking at for franchise partners, certainly in Asia, the lowest hanging fruit would be the Philippines. And if you do have a brand that you're looking at, we'd love to talk to you and discuss ways that we might be able to get your brand into the market. All right, next slide, Tess. Thanks. So as indicated, we have this is an incredibly busy post. We have an enormous number of activities coming up. You likely are reading about the Philippines in the news almost every day. Much of it is not entirely positive. There are some geopolitical regional rivalries that are causing a lot of headline news here in the Philippines. Because of that, the US government is putting an enormous amount of our own resources and our attention in this market, in the Philippines market. We're looking to balance the economy of the Philippines in favor of partners that have shared interests like us. And we're doing that through a wide range and very robust schedule that includes significant amount of trade and investment partnerships and seeking opportunities to advance our interests. So just over the last couple months, we've had the U.S. Secretary of Commerce here, brought a trade mission of 22 U.S. companies. We hosted the Indo-Pacific Business Forum here in Manila just last month that brought in about 500 U.S. companies, 500 attendees anyway. We had as a metric to clearly spell out how important the U.S.-Philippines relationship is. President Marcos has been in office for 2 years now, just under 2 years, and he's been to the United States 4 times already. He did make 1 trip to China, and he's made 1 trip to Japan, but he's been in the United States 4 times in the first 24 months. His last trip to the U.S. in April was to participate in a trilateral meeting between Japan, the U.S., and the Philippines. The U.S. and the Philippines, the leaders, so President Marcos and the Prime Minister of Japan met with President Biden and announced a very significant partnerships, trilateral partnership to bring in both U.S. and Japanese companies to accelerate economic development, diversify the economy, and create a more robust partnership between countries that have shared values like Japan, the United States, and the Philippines, discourage them from working with others that might not have those same shared values. In the coming months, we have a couple of very exciting events coming up. In September, we'll be hosting the Asia Defense and Security, or ADAS, trade show here in Manila. It's the largest defense and security trade show in the Philippines. We'll have a U.S. pavilion. We'll have a group of U.S. SMEs that will be coming looking for opportunities in the defense and security sector here in the Philippines. And that may be everything from the Philippine Air Force down to the Coast Guard. So a wide range of opportunities for U.S. companies that have equipment or services that can be used by the armed forces here. We're doing a trade mission in November focused on smart cities. It will be, particularly here in the Philippines, it'll be focused on greenfield development just a bit north of Manila called Clark New City. It'll be a multi-billion-dollar development, bringing in international investors, doing manufacturing, distribution, cold chain storage, all kinds of opportunities in New Clark City. And we will be particularly focused on how we can bring in American technology that will create more efficiencies in how the infrastructure is built and used in Manila and New Clark City. We're also doing a great deal of work around advanced manufacturing. There's a lot of opportunities for the Philippines in order to remain competitive, opportunities to bring on additional manufacturing technology. Next slide. So the one of the last things I wanted to highlight was the primary trade policy effort that we have underway here in Southeast Asia and really across the Indo-Pacific. If you're not familiar with the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, it is a new model for how trade policy and trade agreements will be done in the next decades. This is the framework is built. It has 14 participating partners, including the United States, and it's built around shared values. So without identifying a particular country, you can imagine the countries that have shared values that share values with the United States, values like diversity and equality and treating labor in a fair and reciprocal sort of manner, protecting the environment in a way that is going to create more sustainable economic development opportunities. This framework is built around a series of those types of values so that the benefits don't go towards one participant, but they are shared amongst all 14 IPEF economies. The Philippines is a very active and very enthusiastic participant in IPEF, and we are beginning to see great progress in this agreement. We don't probably need to go into the detail, but the IPEF framework is split into 4 pillars. They're called pillars. One is really purely around trade policy. We have pillars focused on supply chain, clean economy, and fair economy. And so these are in some of this is a response to the COVID epidemic and the weaknesses that we recognized in the way that our economies were structured and the way that our trade and investment relationships were being done. Others are trying to create a path forward where we'll be able to create more sustainable economic development. Next slide. I think that would be our last. Our contact information. This is the best way to reach us. It'll get to not only the officers that work here in Manila, but it'll get to our specialists as well. And feel free to reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to chat with you guys individually on the phone if needed. But in the remaining time, if there is time, let me turn it over to Tess if you have any additional things that I might have skipped over, Tess.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, everyone. Just like to inform everybody that the key sectors that Commercial Councilor Paul mentioned, each of us here in the Manila team would be happy to have a B2B, B2G discussion. We can provide a more deep dive counseling for the companies that are interested to enter through the sectors that Paul mentioned. If you are offering a solution that is also catered to a very niche market here, we can try to provide that kind of market assessment, do an initial market check. And the key here in this market is have a local representation, find an agent, find a distributor for most of the sectors. But if you are going to be selling to the Philippine government, we'd like you to understand the Philippine government procurement policy. It's also important to speak with a legal service provider to understand the local laws. Again, if it's going to be a procurement of the Philippine government, it's best that you speak with the local partner here that can help you facilitate into all these opportunities. With that, we can also connect you with other partner agencies, U.S. Trade and Development Agency, U.S. Exim Bank, the Development Finance Corporation, and other agencies that can help facilitate your entry into the market. So with that, thank you for hearing our presentation, and we'll be happy to answer questions later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tess.
Real quick, Rob, I noticed, I see Easter Villanueva is on the call. Maybe Easter, I don't know. Are you able to turn your camera on and just say hi? We have one of our other commercial specialists online. Easter, Tess covers the defense and energy sectors, amongst some others. Easter Villanueva covers the ICT sector, telecom, digital policy, technology of all sorts.
Great. Hi, Easter.
Hi, good
Welcome.
morning.
Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you how we can help you here in the Philippine market. I handle the ICT, fintech, and education sectors, and I'm the one leading the Smart Cities Trade Mission in November. So we'd love to have you in our trade mission. We'll send you over the details once it's available. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. I'd also like to just say to Tess, she mentioned to me before that she's been in this position for 30 years, and that's fantastic. And I'd like to thank her for doing all of that hard work for 30 years on behalf of American companies. That's really fantastic. I mean, can you imagine the wealth of knowledge she's developed over those years that our companies need to tap into that? We
Thank
do
you.
have a couple of questions popping up, but I'll just jump to Bernice real quick and ask Bernice to say a few words. Bernice, again, as a reminder, her company is VertAccount, but she's one of our newer board members on the Hawaii Pacific Export Council in Hawaii. And just Bernice, say hi and tell us a little bit about your company.
Well, aloha and mabuhay, and thank you for having me here today, at least a little bit participation in the panel. My company, VertAccount, we provide outsourced accounting services to small and mid-sized businesses. I've been fortunate to grow up in the Philippines. I was born and raised there, and then moved to Honolulu in 2002. So I've also had the good fortune of having the other half of my life in Hawaii. So I get to straddle both worlds. And on the Philippine side, I think what might be relevant to some of the attendees today is if you are looking at starting a business in the Philippines or making some investments there, we are able to help with some of that endemic bureaucracy that Paul referred to, because we do some of the business registrations and compliance, or also the recruitment and staffing for employees, for local employees. So that's one way we can help.
Great. Thank you so much,
you.
Bernice. Another comment I'd like to quickly jump into, because Paul mentioned John Holman, and I was going to do that towards the end anyway, but John is by statute the executive secretary of the Hawaii Pacific Export Council. He is the window into the U.S. commercial service to the Philippines for our Hawaii companies, but also globally. So we'll definitely introduce you to John Holman. But something that Tess brought up a few minutes ago, finding distributors and what have you, that reminded me to mention about the U.S. Commercial Services Gold Key service, where a small company can pay approximately $900. Is that right, Tess, Paul? Something like that. And the U.S. Commercial Service in Manila will help you find and vet some distributors, even customers in some way. And if you'd like to start that process, John Holman is the person to contact, and I'll be sure to send around his contact information. The other thing I'd like to highlight, and if Jamie is still available to say something, is that the HiSTEP program will cover that Gold Key service. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So I did want to add that. So any of the Gold Key or any of the U.S. commercial services services that a company would be interested in using, HiSTEP can reimburse companies for those types of activities.
Great. It's a fantastic service that I've used many times in my career, and it'll that $900. That and again, it's more or less covered by the STEP grant. But if you had to pay for it out of cash, it's still a fantastic deal, and would save you a tremendous amount of time and energy and money. Okay, with that, let me jump over to a few questions that have come in. This is a problem our companies in Hawaii have because we're out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, but logistics is a big issue, maybe the biggest issue. And so there's a question that came in about what are some of the shipping companies and services that are used to export and import between Hawaii and the Philippines. And I don't know if you have any comment on that, Tess, if you've seen what type of shipping companies could be used to move product from Hawaii to Manila?
I think the best thing to do is really we can connect you with the logistics service provider here. It's best to have a custom broker work for you because there are too many paperworks in Manila. We have two major ports of entry here in Manila. One is also in the Batangas Bay. And it's not only seaport, you know, we have also our air logistics that can cover typically the large companies, UPS, FedEx are able to provide services here. But for shipping companies, it's a very robust industry. Just let us know and we can connect you with a Philippine customs broker because they can determine where your route can be, and definitely Hawaii is a major exporter. We can check also with our US Department of Agriculture since a lot of the exports are coming from Hawaii. If most of these products are going to be agricultural products, so we can have that list provided to you, Rob. We'll send a couple of names.
Great. Thank you, Tess. And as a reminder to the audience, if it's agricultural products, we just had a webinar recently on exporting of agricultural products from Hawaii. That, of course, wasn't Philippine specific, but there were a lot of good contacts that were detailed in that webinar and some very interesting information presented by the Hawaii Department of Agriculture. So I would encourage you to go back and look at that one as well. Another question maybe for Paul. What is the Philippines like in terms of tariffs and customs coming from the United States? There's no free trade agreement, but do we have are customs high or average or low?
I'd say customs, the taxes in the Philippines are average. It's not a complaint that we hear of regularly from our U.S. clients or from the American Chamber of Commerce here in the Philippines. That's certainly not one of the largest market barriers. The efficiency of the customs clearance process is a much bigger problem than the actual tariff rates that imported products face. This is a very open market. Our colleagues at the U.S. Trade Representative typically are not challenged with some of the issues some of the policies that you might find in other markets like Vietnam, Indonesia, much more protectionist than the Philippines. The Philippines is ready to trade with their partners, and particularly with the United States. If you are a food exporter, since you just mentioned that, Rob, there are some difficulties around food imports. Some of it is, again, going back to the processes and even the corruption and bureaucracy that's involved in the customs clearance processes. But the Philippines there are some problematic policies around trying to protect the market for foreign competition. Oftentimes it is driven by domestic political sensitivities, and one of the biggest is inflation and the cost to consumers here of food products. So because of those sensitivities, the Department of Agriculture and others here in the Philippines can sometimes try to construct processes or import regulations that can limit opportunities for foreign companies, but it's still, in the grand scheme of things, it's still a relatively small problem. The biggest problem by far, mentioned several times, bureaucracy, corruption, and just poor processes, inefficiencies.
How is the Philippine peso right now against the US dollar? Like Japan, for example, is having a very difficult time because the yen is incredibly weak against the dollar. How's the peso right now? And it's a leading question into, are products from Hawaii egregiously expensive to the average Filipino?
The imported products are going to be expensive for the average Filipino without any doubt, but there are market opportunities even for sort of higher priced commodities, higher priced products. The peso has been weakening against the dollar significantly over the last 2 years. My understanding from what I have read and been told, it's not so much the peso weakening per se, but the dollar continuing to strengthen against foreign currencies. So that you see that more clearly in Japan than you do here. But the peso is now at about 56 to the dollar, if I remember right. In the 2 years, I've been here for 2 years, it's gone from about 50 to 56. So it's weakening. There are concerns and efforts being made by the central bank here in the Philippines to strengthen the peso, particularly because this market is so heavily reliant on imported commodities, food in particular. But there's not a lot of optimism that there's going to be a quick fix to that. So overall, weakening peso.
Right. Are there any trade shows in the Philippines? If there would be, I'd assume it's in Manila, but a trade show that Hawaii companies could think about attending. And I'll steer it towards the Tokyo International Gift Show is a very big event that a lot of Hawaii companies attend. And I'm wondering if there's something similar at the city center there in Manila or some other big trade shows where a lot of international companies attend. Maybe not so industry specific, like you mentioned, the defense shows and other, but just a general gift and trade fair.
The Philippines does not have a large number of international trade shows, but there are a few that we are actively engaged in supporting. The one that we mentioned in September is probably our largest priority this year, particularly in terms of trade shows. The Asia Defense and Security Show in late September. There is a franchising show that is very international and brings in a lot of U.S. companies. That is towards the end. Or Tess, when is that franchise show? It just happened recently, right?
But Paul, if I may chime in, most of the shows, we believe more of consumer type shows, begin in September until November, towards Christmas season. There's like a World Bazaar show at the World Trade Center, wherein everyone who can sell anything that is needed in time for Christmas. Usually organized by a private trade show organizer here. But just please remember that anytime from September, October, November, these more consumer type shows can happen. We don't typically work with these organizers because these are very consumer driven events, except if the larger franchising, of course, or the retail show. But towards October, November, there are chamber focus events. We do it usually with the chambers of Cebu, Cagayan de Oro, Davao. They hold their annual business conferences and that they have some little exposition on the side. So we can find out from the trade show organizers, but if you're planning to participate, the last quarter of September actually would be an ideal time to be part of these consumer-driven events.
Okay, great. Thank you. Last question. Do you know of any sister city relationships between Hawaii and parts of the Philippines? Or Bernice, do you have any idea?
I thought I recall Baguio might be, and maybe another city up north in Ilocos somewhere because of the very close ties with Hawaii and the Ilocos community. So I'm pretty sure Baguio and one other, at least.
Sometimes those sister city relationships are a good avenue for trade. And also, Bernice or Jamie, you might know if there's any halaus, hula halaus in the Philippines, where some of our companies may be able to make some inroads into those hula organizations.
I have not looked into that, but that's a great point to research. I'll be asking about the halaus.
Okay, thank you
Yeah,
very
I'm not
much.
sure. Rob, just to let you know, because I'm just looking at our website. So, because sister city agreements also fall under our division. We sort of also operate as like an Office of International Affairs. So we actually do have agreements with Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, Cebu, Pangasinan, and Isabela. That is who I see listed.
Also, Easter Villanueva posted Manila, Honolulu, sister cities after
And
44
then
years.
yes, and then
That's
the
great.
individual counties do have sister cities. So at the state level, we have a sister, I guess, province. It's between the state and
Right.
provinces. And then like city and county of Honolulu would have some, as well as, you know, Kauai, Maui County,
So
Big Island.
these are possible connections and inroads for our companies to make some new colleagues in some of these sister city events. So look out for them and attend them. I've seen that work many times. So with that, unless there's any further comments from Tess, Paul, Bernice, Jamie, I'm going to close the event. We're coming right up to time. We'd like to thank Paul Taylor, Tasula, Easter Villanueva joined in.
And Rob,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd also like to acknowledge Anne-Marie Brooks is our commercial officer. She joined earlier, but Anne-Marie will be handling a very significant portfolio. Anne-Marie, please. Yeah, there she is.
Hi, and good to see you again, Rob. We worked together a long time ago in
I knew
Singapore.
that had to be the same Anne-Marie Brooks. So how are you? We knew each other
Good,
many,
good. I
many years ago in
recognized your
Singapore.
voice.
Yeah, how are you?
Good.
Great.
So I'm handling the IPEF portfolio, and I'm working with Easter on ICT. So really looking forward to working with your companies.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. It's so nice to see you. So again, thank you to all of our friends from Manila, because they're sharing their very busy Friday morning with us. And also this is a little bit later than we would normally do our event, but some of the feedback I received from the Honolulu side was that 5 p.m. was actually better for some people. So thank you for staying late for listening to our presentation. Thanks to also Bernice for helping. And as I mentioned earlier, Baby Montesinos, who couldn't join us, but we know her well, and she was very helpful with this. So thanks again. As a reminder, I'll be sending around the presentations that were done by Paul and Tess and Jamie Lum. And eventually I will edit this video a little bit and put it onto our YouTube archive, and I'll send the link around for all of that. Okay, with that, this is Rob Hack from the Hawaii Pacific Export Council. Thank you again for joining our event, Exporting to the Philippines from Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you at some of our upcoming events. And thanks again, everyone. Wonderful. Mahalo.
Aloha.
Thanks, Rob and team.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. Have a good
Thanks
evening,
a lot.
everyone.
Thank you.
Aloha,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.